So, a little fun fact about me, is that I'm huge, huge, huge fan of the Spider-Mans. Like, love Spider-Man to death. He is my second favorite superhero of all time. Right behind Mr. Batman himself. But Spider-Man's very close second. And, since No Way Home came out, I don't know what it has been, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. I thought it'd be a good time to review the series that got me into the Spider-Man with the 90s cartoon, also known as Spider-Man the Animated Series. And today, it'll just be the first season. I will cover the rest of them some other time. But yeah. The first season follows Peter Parker, played by Christopher Daniel Barnes, who also played Prince Eric from The Little Mermaid and video games like Kingdom Hearts, which I was very surprised to find that out. I didn't even make that connection. Then, as soon as I read that credit, I'm like, well, Google a clip of Little Mermaid. I'm like, oh my god, that is him. And he also played other Spider-Man roles like in the video game Edge of Time. And as he deals with life as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Really, this season doesn't really have an overarching plot. It's more road building. But there's a reason for that. Because all the producers and all that stuff didn't want overarching stories in the 90s cartoon. But while the show, John Sepper Jr. said that he wasn't allowed, but he did anyways. Way that starts with the second season, but it kind of starts with the first season. I explain in a second. And he said he almost got fired over that, but then, which I'm very glad that he didn't get fired, because the writing of the show is surprisingly solid. What I mean by that is that when people talk about this, the 90s anime TV show is very much, Coney lines, over the top acting, which is some. I'm not gonna act like that isn't there, but the show is very smartly written. Cheesy line would be, get back here, Shaka, you can't escape me. I chase you to the ends of the earth. That's where the key moment people point to, with cheesiness and over the topness. But also it fits the show because the show is cheesy. I mean, it is. But that's besides the point. The point is the show can balance seriousness and serious at the same time very well. And it's also like I said, we're very smartly, because in episode 2, for example, MJ is talking about, not MJ, Anime is talking about, setting up P on a blind date, with MJ, and, we don't see who MJ is. Pio doesn't know what MJ looks like. But they pick up that plot line in the next episode, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me not get ahead of myself. Which, it's like, that blind date, and Pio's like, yeah, sum me up with him. And Pio was, drank it the whole time, and, when he's finally saw him, he's like, how damn. But with all this stuff, have a sub a block before he gets Venom. they really did that before the alien costume free problem. Because they already set him up in the first 3 episodes, then like left him alone for like 4 episodes, and then bring him back for the alien costume free problem, which I think the cosplay out a bit show, but like, you know, you don't want to be like, hey Brock, hey Brock, hey Brock all the time. And also, like, well, also that like helps makes the world feel connected and alive, even though this is quote unquote episodic. Like, there's references to past events all the time, and there's references to like all Marvel properties. Like, first episode Spider-Man just it's like Fantastic Four, Avengers, Defenders, like, and the Incredible Hulk in like 1 sentence, or 2 sentences. So it's like, so like obviously there's all Marvel characters alive in Spider-Man's world here. And like they build characters up. Like, J. Jonah Jameson is an asshole at the beginning, but later, like, you discover he's an asshole with a heart of gold. Through like how much he cares about his son. That like he will never back down to from a story. And like has a thing against like people who wear masks due to his wife getting killed via someone with a mask with a drive-by. And like later when in the and Constant Free Part, when he found out that a blog basically published a false story about Spider-Man, which penned Spider-Man a negative life, he's like, nah, we don't do that here at the Daily Bugle, high class newspaper. I want to report the truth. I don't care, I don't care how it makes Spider-Man looks. It has to be the truth, The colony, and that's slowly word out. Like, it's just like information dump, backstory. That's why you should kill him. Because I feel like a lot of shows, like when convenient, really, let's be honest, like, this is what you should kill about this character. Here's the sad backstory with small violence playing for background. But they don't do that in this show. They build up characters so more that you understand, now, like, oh, feel for them now type stuff. Which drives me insane. I'm not gonna name any shows that do that right now, because it's not the point of this, but like, it drives me insane when shows do that. And like, the comedies are so solid. Sure, you get ridiculous stuff, like them driving the truck. Hilarious. Like, if that's I'm not sure if it's supposed to be funny, because it makes sense why he drives the truck, because there's no way to swing with his webs. Of course he's gonna steal a truck to catch up with Spider-Man. But it's hilarious that you have like them driving a truck, honking the horn, like, look at me, I'm driving a truck. But like there's like solid lines like Spider-Man calling a gargoyle Bruce. It says something like, keep smiling, Bruce. Hilarious. Because, that's obviously a reference to Batman. And, like, Batman's always, growl, wow, moping, all that stuff, stereotypically. And it's a nice little, funny gag for people who get the reference, or even like referential humor, like in the third episode, I believe, criminals go like, hey, but Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like, What? Spider-Man? Well. Oh, I just get so flustered when I meet a celebrity. I don't know what to say. Which, most shows would just go, Spider-Man would probably just say, well, like, Spider-Man, well. And it just adds up, like, Spider-Man playing it up. I really do think someone did an excellent job, like, writing this show. This show is very 90s. It's in its blood. It's, like, very much, like, a capsule of the 90s, I feel like. But also ahead of its time, again, with how it's written. Because most 90s shows, I don't think, will have each episode feel so, like, connected and alive. Well, again, not fully yet, because it's still, like, in the episodic stages. But it feels like it's building up. But some things do have to go back to the status quo. Like Pio and his relationship with Felicia, Holly, and MJ. Both had to, like, kind of reset at the end of each episode. Really, that's kind of it. Everything else builds up. Also, don't think Christopher Daniel Barnes gets enough credit as Peter Parker. And yes, again, this is over the top, like, reads of lines. Yes, that's 100% fact, and I'm not here to be like, oh, no, that's not a thing. But he does a very solid job. He gets sarcasm done quickly. Like, Peter Parker, they take my inspiration from, like, the beginning of the comics when Peter Parker's a very built, like, human being, opposed to, like, something from the Sam Raimi's interpretation of the character. Like, he's barely sarcastic. He talks back to JJ. And, like, it's Peter Parker being Peter Parker. Like, from his other comics. And I think he nails those down. Pack. And also when he's, like, speaking scientific talk, like, I believe, like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And, like, I also had to give him major credit. Even though he didn't pull it off with, like, what's the correct word would be? Not to say, like, all the time. Because this is where, like, a good chunk of his quote-unquote over-the-top, his over-the-top reads come from. At least in this season. Actually, William is all with over-the-top lines read, come from this season. Is that, but I appreciate the effort. Is that, like, when Peter's overtaken by the symbol, he changes Peter's voice to be more sinister. Like, like, telling the audience without saying, hey, Peter Parker, he's not the same as you used to. And by doing so, yes, over-top reads are here and there. But I appreciate the effort. But it's like an example of a really good read of this is when, Peter and Flash Thompson was going at it. And Flash Thompson says, oh, you got a backbone, Peter? And Peter's like, grabs, like, Flash Thompson's collar and is like, I've grown a lot more than just a backbone. And, like, it's a very good read, because, when, like, you hear, like, characters be more sensitive, it's usually, like, an either copy or duplicate, or, like, Goku Black and Goku. And, like, I feel like you really don't hear that for, like, nods and tips of same characters, because usually it's just the same voice. Just, which, and, it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just the extra effort that Bonds do is appreciated. The fights and animation, that would be the next topic. The animation is okay. Nothing, like, crazy. I think the CGI is definitely did not age well, like the CGI say. The fight scenes, actually, before I got to fight scenes, there's a lot of animation errors. You would notice it for a normal watching. I legitimately didn't stop frame by frame, analyzing each era. No, like I just watch. I'm like, oh, byline, outlining that character's hair disappeared. Oh, that's kind of wrong. Like stuff like that. Does it ruin the show? No. Is it noticeable? Yeah. For fight scenes, I think for fights of anime very well. For a show that doesn't allow people to punch each other, you don't notice it. You really don't. But it's entertaining for fights out. You're not like, where's for punching? I need my Spider-Man to punch. There's only one time I think there's a punch thrown at like a character, and it's like a loophole because Spider-Man punches Chameleon's belt, breaking it. Because in this show, Chameleon uses a belt to transform, and it looks like it made it look like Spider-Man was crouch punching Chameleon. But that's like the only exception of that, because technically he's not punching for Chameleon. But like sometimes I feel like during fights it just cuts to something, like during the fight with Kraven the Hunter. Spider-Man was on like Kraven's back, and Kraven was about to yeet him, and then it just cuts to Spider-Man on the wall without seeing the act of Kraven actually throwing Spider-Man. You're like, what? It just caused a bit of whiplash, and also there's a lot of reuse animation, which is not a bad thing. Like you gotta save time and money. But, like, it's obvious that they reuse it from a scene, like, that doesn't fit with the scene that's currently going on. Because they use, like, the Kingpin's first appearance shot about, like, 10, 11 episodes earlier. It's clearly, didn't fit in them. Like, stuff like that. And next, I would go episode by episode to just overview. Some of these are like paragraphs, some of these are not paragraphs, some of them are like 2 sentences. But when it comes to like multi-part episodes, like the alien costume, which is a 3-part, and the Hobgoblin, which is a 2-part, which are multi-part episodes in this season, I would cover them together because it makes no sense to split them up. They're meant to be told as one story. So the first episode doesn't start with, Uncle Ben dying. But like Spider-Man being Spider-Man. This show doesn't go into the backstory until later on. Which, if like people criticize, like, we always hear about like Uncle Ben dying, it's way about the movies. Stuff like that. But like, the villain of the week is Felicia. J. Jonah Jameson hears about Felicia, and between P and A, it's like, whoever gets this shot of this lizard gets 1,000 buckaroos. He puts P on a job to interview Connie's instead of a blog about scientific stuff because P actually knows Connors. I really like the scene because it sets up who JJ is. Yes, I'm gonna call J. Jonah Jameson JJ for like basically the rest of his review because I like calling him JJ. And who A Block is. And it also really solidifies that Spider-Man's been a thing for a while, and P looking at the debut has been a thing for a while. Later on, Peter finds out Felicia's Connors himself, and he turns himself into Alyssa when he was experimenting on himself to regrow his arm, and that causes him to turn Felicia, and he wants to turn the city into Felicia so there'd be no illnesses and stuff like that in the city, because it worked for him, must work for everyone else. And this episode also starts kind of an annoying trend, how like a lot of the villains have to connect to Peter Parker, which, for this it works, but for other ones it feels false, and we get to that when we get to them. And Peel feels responsible for caring for Felicia because he helped Kirk Harness, with his technology and experiments and all that stuff. And Peel won the reward of $1,000, which I like how it shows how Spider-Man can help Peter Parker's life in this episode. And he uses that money to help Aunt May pay the bills. Because he was thinking, yeah, I can spare myself. But he goes like, what the hell am I thinking? Aunt May needs to pay the bills. Episode 2 does set up a lot. Because episode 1 is kind of like a building block. And then episode 2 really does build on top of it. Because this episode introduced Norman and Harry Osborn as the Smite, Felicia Hart, and the Kingpin. All pretty important characters in the series. I also think it was awesome that they made Alistair Smite basically a recurring villain in episode 2. Because he's such if you go down the street and ask 10 people, who's Alistair Smite? They're like, who the heck is that? Because most people don't know who that is. He showed up at Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I highly doubt most people know that back from, watching the movie. I picked up on that because it was just, blink, you miss it kind of thing. So this also basically is Norman Osborn hires Alistair's father to be a killer robot to kill Spider-Man. Norman's working with the Kingpin, and Eddie Brock is working with Norman to animate Spider-Man live. Being buddy with JJ. But that backfires on Eddie because he captures Flash Thompson in the Spider-Man costume, which the reason why Flash Thompson was in the Spider-Man costume because he got judged with Peter Parker dancing with Felicia Hart. So he was like, I'm gonna give him a little skill and being Spider-Man and be like, hey, stop taking pictures of me. And Peter Parker handed it like a champ because he knows, of course, that's not Spider-Man. This is the episode where Eddie Brock gets fired because JJ's like, you're unmasked, not Spider-Man, and you cause damage to this party by working with people who built a giant robot. Just threw it at a party when Flash Thompson got captured. And I also like this because it keeps the Kingpin in the shadows. Spider-Man does not know who that is for the whole season. And Alistair's father dies in this episode in an explosion. And Alistair started working with the Kingpin because the Kingpin took him under his wing. Peel left during the party to, suit up, fight for a good fight. And Felicia Hart is like, hey, you run away like a coward. I don't want to see you. Yeah. So, which also shows how Spider-Man can affect Peter Parker's life negatively. Which is a good contrast to the first episode, where it shows, hey, there's a plus side being Spider-Man. Episode 3 is basically Alistair trying to get revenge on those that he blames for his father's death. Spider-Man, JJ, Eddie Brock, Flash Thompson, and Norman Osborn. This episode also just sets up Eddie Brock even further for hanging Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Mostly Spider-Man. And that Alistair would be staying with the Kingpin. And the blind date happens with Peter Parker and MJ, so MJ's not officially in the show. Episode 4 is Mysterio flames Spider-Man for crimes that he didn't do using very advanced movie techniques and effects. Mysterio is mad at Spider-Man for getting him arrested for doing illegal stuff on the movie set. And that's why he frames him. It makes sense, but it feels forced because it's like, oh, you did an illegal thing, you got arrested. Now it's revenge, I wear a fishbowl on my head now. But the Mysterio stuff made Peter miss a date with MJ. And, Peter's like, no, I'm sick of being Spider-Man. It gets in my life too much. But Lieutenant Lee, a new character. For this episode, she shows up later, but this following episode, she shows up in the season. It's like, hey, you're unlike Spider-Man. Spider-Man will do something about this. And Peter's like, you know what? She's absolutely correct. He remembers Uncle Ben. This is when we give a whole, wrestling bone saw is ready. Wobbly, Uncle Ben is dead. Story. And Peter's like, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, I really do like that. But then bring up in the first episode, and the fact that great power comes great responsibility, something he needs to constantly remind himself of. Which we get to later. Episode 5, I like how in my script/notes, because I do improv, which, I think it's working out good. Is the episode I probably have the least to say about, but it's not true, but it's incorrect. But anyways, Peter goes on a date with Felicia. Oh, before we get that, episode 4 has a very funny line. When MJ asks Peter what does her and Spider-Man have in common, Peter says, you both look good in skin-tight clothes. Hey, Paul. He's honest what he thinks, I guess. Man, she should have probably slapped him for that. Oh, she'd be like, you know what? Peter Parker, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna put on a Spider-Man costume and go on a date with you like that and see how much you enjoy it. Episode 5, Peter goes on a date with Felicia Hardy. Then Dr. Ock kidnaps him. He's upset for Felicia's mom. Put the plug in his life work. It's not the sun in the palm of your hands. It is an energy source, but it's not the sun in the palm of your hands. This is also first backstory connection with the villain when it's like, oh, Peter Parker went to science camp where, Doc Ock happened to be the teacher of, and it's just like, did we need that? It really doesn't play too much of the episode and it just feels forced. Episode 6 is Scobley in Time. JJ hired Matt Goggin to tell Peter to find out how he gives us pictures of Spider-Man. Because of this, Peter left his date with Felicia Hardy, and Felicia is upset. Well, it's not even a date. It's more like study. And Felicia refuses to go on another date with Peter. Anyways, Peter later finds out that Goggin and JJ have a connection. So he became Spider-Man to friend JJ, where he just says, back off. And this reminds JJ of, the death of his wife. And he's like, Goggin, I'm taking you to a lab. You can have radiation done to you so you can become a threat to Spider-Man. During the whole experiment, Goggin is like, I don't know what's going on. It's like, JJ, you should have told the man. I'm gonna, radiate you. At the very least. And then, JJ realized he made a monster, a mistake. And JJ and Spider-Man team up to save the day. And Peter and Parker leaving Felicia Hardy's made her want to go on a date with Peter. Don't know how that worked out in his favor, but it did. Episode 7 is for Kraven the Hunter episode. We meet his wife. Kraven is cured for power that he got from drinking a cure that gave people animal strength, make them more animal-like. And Peter left both MJ and Felicia, who were both upset about it. It's a fun episode, but nothing much more to say. Okay, the first multi-part episode, here we go. Episodes 8, 9, and 10, all about the symbiote. But then similar to be more, be more precise about. John Jameson, the son of a famous J. Jonah Jameson, is an astronaut in his spaceship brought the symbol to Earth. If it's also a walk that's on the ship, that's ultimately just a plot device to get the plot moving. So I'm just gonna call it a plot walk. Because it doesn't affect anything outside of this episode. Because it gets taken care of. So Kingpin sends for wanting to give a plot walk from a spaceship because it's a powerful energy source. Wino gets away with it. A Block was there and saw the Wino, but he doesn't say he saw the Wino. He's like, it's just Spider-Man. Spider-Man stole the walk. And if that causes JJ to be like, look, Spider-Man's a monster. He's $1 million bounty on Spider-Man's head. Whoever captures Spider-Man gets $1 million. And, Spider-Man got the symbiote on his suit and goes home. And that's when he finds out about the bounty. And, then he goes to bed, and there's this cool dream sequence where it's like the symbiote and Spider-Man's suit fighting over Peter Parker. Like, eternally, like, good versus evil, like, pulling at Peter Parker. And eventually the symbiote wins. And, Peter Parker wakes up upside down, the symbiote suit. Which makes him, stronger, faster, and better. He also can change his appearance on wheel. They made reference to the single of the theme song, which the theme song is very 90s, and I love it. As Joe Perry, like, have him dress as Joe Perry from Aerosmith. And while researching this video, I found out that Aerosmith did a cover of a 1960 Spider-Man theme song for the 2002 movie, which is cool. Give it a listen. It is exactly what you expect an Aerosmith version of that song to be. If you like Aerosmith, I think you will like it. Peter's a lot more aggressive. Again, I give props for Christopher Daniel Barnes for voice acting too. Even though it can be over the top at times, I think he did a good job of trying to sound more aggressive. Again, I love that detail so much. Spider-Man realized that something's different with him because he almost killed for Wino. Like, he just thought, like, oh, everyone's on my back, but he was literally about to kill for Wino with a metal dome. Something's wrong with me. We learn that the symbiote is weak to sound and fire. Peter goes to Kurt Connors to find out what the symbiote is. We learn that the symbiote is called the symbiote. It takes over his host. Makes you stronger and stuff, but eventually it will take over. And, if we're talking about the symbiote hive mind, I can't tell you if that plays a part in the story later on. It definitely doesn't play a part in the 3-part episode here. But, if it just mentioned it, I'm like, that's a nice detail. And, nice wink wink to comic book fans. But I'm not sure if that detail goes anywhere in the overall story. A, gets fired again because JJ hired him over the, story, the scoop he had of Spider-Man steering for plot walk. But, JJ found out the Rhino is a thing. It's like, you're a fraud, A. I have to put out a retraction and take down the bounty. And, due to this, the Kingpin found out that A was on the bridge. The Rhino's, the airship, spaceship landed, and the Rhino still walked. I was like, we can't have any witnesses, so we said, the shocker. Which I love, I love how, the Kingpin just, can just be like, do. Hello, Max super villain. Yes, we need you to do the thing. Spider-Man stopped Shocker for killing Eddie Brock. And, Spider-Man followed Shocker back to Kingpin's Slayer, but he only sees Eisden Smithville. Doesn't yet know of the Kingpin. Steals the plot walk, which causes Astro Smart to be like, let's exchange, John Johnson, for this walk, which it turns out to be a double cross. This way we get for her. You can escape me, shot, all that fun stuff. Spider-Man's about to kill Shocker. He always kills two people in this. And then Peel remembers Uncle Ben's words, which again I do like. But he has to constantly remind himself, with great power comes great responsibility. And then, he didn't kill him. Then the symbiote comes out of the suit and just pushes the Shocker off of a ledge. Spider-Man's like, no. And then that's when Spider-Man gets rid of the symbiote via a giant belt. And then it lands on Eddie. Now, I like how the show depicts Eddie Brock's hatred of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Because you see Eddie just blames Spider-Man for everything. He sneezes in this episode. In this free part. He goes Spider-Man caused that. It's just, because it just shows that he's not taking responsibility for his own actions. He just hates Spider-Man because, it has to be someone else. We live in America, for God's sake. Nothing's our fault. But I like how, that's the opposite of what Peter is trying to be with. Great power, great responsibility. Eddie Brock doesn't have that. It's a good, contrast. And then we get Venom. Which, I like how it shows, Venom and Eddie Brock torturing Spider-Man. Eddie Brock shows up, because Kingpin sends for Rhino and Shocker after Spider-Man. Venom takes them out quickly, without Spider-Man seeing Venom at first. And then it's Eddie Brock. It's hey, Spider-Man, how you doing? Then he immediately turns into Venom. But, Spider-Man, Peter sees Venom everywhere. Basically after that, whereas he's actually Venom, or Peter is in Peter's head. Venom almost unmaxed Peter in front of. He did unmax him, but no one saw Peter's face. Luckily. Eddie showed up to Peter and MJ's date, and then shows up at Aunt May's house, and Peter's he knows too much. We gotta take care of him. So basically, Peter we do Eddie Brock's apartment with all the news clippers saying how Eddie Brock's a failure and a flaw. And that gets them to chase him to the space shuttle, where the Peter uses the time of space shuttle to get the symbiote suit off of Eddie Brock and web the symbiote to the rocket and have it get sent up to space. And then the military sees, Spider-Man and Eddie Brock on the space station, and Spider-Man just leaves Eddie Brock on the military ground. He can handle it himself. He doesn't need my fuck him. He was the worst supervillain by far. Just leave him on the military base. Episode 11 and 12 are two parts. This is the Hobgoblin one. This is the first appearance of the Hobgoblin. He's voiced by Mark Hamill, Joker from various projects, most famously from Batman the Animated Series, and also Luke Skywalker from different Star Wars stuff, like A New Hope. The reason why the Hobgoblin came before the Green Goblin in this show is toys. The show went before Simple, before he got canned, was Marvin Pesco. Changed the over to for whatever reason, because Hobgoblin's origin story in the comics is some dude basically randomly found a Green Goblin hiding statue, change the costume, but take the Green Goblin gear. It'd be like, I'm the Goblin. But some people want to change for it back to, Green Goblin then Hobgoblin. But due to the fact that the choice of the Hobgoblin will remain, will remain the same as how Pesco wanted it. And for a 2-part episode that's famous for the whole toe thing with and having Mark Hamill in it, I have to say, this is probably my least favorite episodes however you want to look at it. Because, god dang. I felt like this could have been one episode. They have Hobgoblin changing road teams between Kingpin and Norman Osborn. Too much. Because, yes, we get it, he's a slime ball, but he goes to he works for Norman Osborn trying to kill Kingpin, then he goes to Kingpin and is like, I want to work for you! And then it keeps going back and forth like that, and it's just like, we get it! Can't be trusted. And for putting things in Spider-Man is somehow, somewhat close of knowing the Kingpin exists, but not really. And P also learns that now wants some responsibility due to him being too busy with Spider-Man, while Ant-Man is in the hospital due to one of the Hobgoblin's attack. He wasn't by Ant-Man's side, but I keep MJ, be by my own side instead of me. Which was a reflection of how Norman Osborn's like, I'm always busy working, never was with Harry during his childhood or life. Which, good reflection for Peter Parker. The last episode is episode 13. Which this show introduces the fact that Spider-Man can team up from people in the Marvel Universe, because there's Shield, there's Nick Fury, there's Black Widow, which I don't think Black Widow gets name dropped. But, who else is a red-haired female working, Commando and Shield? I don't know any other Marvel characters like that. So, I'm assuming it's meant to be Black Widow. And the baddie is Chameleon. Chameleon's trying to, win a peace treaty between two countries. The cool detail about Chameleon in this show, I'm sure this because to save money on both actors. But Chameleon doesn't talk as the Chameleon. He only talks when he's in disguise as someone else and uses the voice of that character. Chameleon, as Peter Parker agreed to go on a date with MJ, to see her play when the real Peter Parker didn't know about this. And of course, she was mad at real Peter Parker, for not showing up, and Peter tried to explain, that wasn't me, but it's an international criminal assassin for hire, but can disguise himself as anyone. She might believe it. She might. But that's the third season of Spider-Man. Overall, really, this show is winning a lot better than I expected it to be. 100%. They falsely introduce, Spider-Man can team up with anyone in the Marvel Universe. That very natural. And I think that's due to the fact that Spider-Man, name drop, a lot of Marvel characters, including the villains, they're part of this world. But just not here, right now. And, the show can be cheesy at times, 100%. But it's fun. It has good action. The world feels so alive. I give the first season of Spider-Man, the animated series, a very solid 8 out of 10. I know that's my third 8 out of 10 in a world here. But that's how I feel. So, yeah, so that's the end of the review. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and bye.